Just feel like
we're good. You can just do whatever. All
right, good.
Okay. Every one of them was empty.
and sclerosis zero, so it's
Very minor.
What are you trying to say? Something? I didn't. Well, so I don't know how. It's what. I think it's probably right. This one using 1 year. I think you kind of.
No, I'm not yet.
Okay, but I mean, I don't think it's like. It's not like.
All right, let's get started. So I'm glad that I'm done with the neurophysiology. So I go back with this part of, I feel more comfortable for the neuroimaging and study because Annie did a great job with, neuro-oncology kind of things. So I'm thinking maybe for next couple of lectures, when Annie is here, we start talking about neuro-oncology from imaging point of view.
Thank you.
So then when we look at the case, we feel more comfortable how do we approach, okay? So how do we analyze the potential brain tumor? First, we know the patients of the age, all right? And then we will location we will talk about is major one is intro or extra axon, am I right? Then what kind of component, whether or not they have the middle line crossing, and what to looking for, whether or not this lesion is any calcification, any fat or any cystic lesion on T1, T2 diffusion within it, and whether or not they have the contrast enhancement, and whether or not they have the mass effect surrounding edema, and it's the single lesion or multiple lesion, or it's the tumor mimic. So that's kind of the way we analyze this information. Just keep in mind brain abscess, tumor affected plaque, vascular malformation, brain aneurysm, all the in fact, and they may mimic the tumor. So that's the kind of the differential, we want to take a look there. So that's the major topic in today. Click. Oh, you're out then, yeah. Here we are, all right? So you look at this, what's the incidence of the brain tumor? So roughly, just be roughly 1/3 is metastatic lesion, and 1/3 is glioma, and 1/3 is non-glioma. So this is just roughly. So glioma is, the non-specific term indicating the tumor originating from glial cells like the oligodendrocyte, pendle, and choroidal cell. Astrocytoma is the most common, am I right? So the typical is GBM. GBM is the most common, 50% of all the astrocytoma. And the non-glial tumor is a heterogeneous group, including meningioma, schwannoma, pituitary, pineal, and lymphoma. So that's so roughly the 1/3 is MET, 1/3 is glioma, and the 1/3 is non-glioma. So this is just roughly what we have. So why the age distribution is look at the age distribution from the young to the old. In the kids, the child population, crowded proximal papilloma, tetraroma, germinoma, craniopharyngioma, medullary tumor, pandomoma is more common. Astrocytoma is across all the line. And so the population we deal with more is like the glioma, meningioma, metastasis. Sometimes we see a couple of hemorrhagic breast tumor, schwannoma, pituitary, cyst, oligodendroma. So that's just the age, the distribution. So that's the patient age tell us. So specific tumor under the age of 2, like crowded plexus papilloma, anaplastic astrocytoma, tetraroma. And in the first decade, the medullary tumor, astrocytoma, pandomoma, craniopharyngioma, glioma most common. In the young population, we don't see many metastases. Am I right? And usually, if we saw it, we just see the neuroblastoma, the most common there. In the adults, 50% of the lesions are metastasis. Other common including astrocytoma, GBM, meningioma, oligodendroma, pituitary, and schwannoma. But astrocytoma occurs all the age. But the GBM is more common in the older patient. Just stop me any question, okay? So what is the common intraaxial tumor in adults is if the supratentorial, METs, and glioma, including the fibrillary astrocytoma, anaplastic astrocytoma, GBM, oligodendroma. Infratentorial, most time is metastasis. So anything in the cerebellum, I will think about the metastasis first, and then based on the characteristic, maybe the hemiangioma or the polycystic astrocytoma and the kind of things. So just keep in mind, metastasis is the most common. Whenever you see the tumor, you always think about the possibility for the metastasis, the tumor. All right, so this is the first part is think about the age group. Now, when you look at the tumor, first thing you want to look at is whatever the lesions there, you want to see the intra versus extraaxial. So what kind of signs suggest this is the extraaxial location? You're looking for CSF cleft. That makes sense because this is from outside, you will push the brain. So you will see the CSF cleft. And you will see whether or not they displace the subarachnoid vessel. Am I right? And then the third thing, you see the cortical gray matter between the mass and the white matter. Remember, if you see the gray matter, that means it's pushed from outside, in between there. And then it's actual axle displace, expand the subarachnoid space. And you have the broad dural base, and you have the bony reaction. So all this is a characteristic indicating this is an actual axal mass. Am I right? So that's the, actually mainly we talk about meningioma and the schwannoma. Am I right? So that's this part. So this is a CP angle tumor, okay? So remember this is a T2, whatever, CSF is white. So if you, between this is a CSF, this we call the CSF cleft. Am I right? And then this is a subarachnoid vessel, look at here. You look at the vessel there? And then this is like the gray matter. You look at it more carefully, this is like the gray matter, this is the white matter, a little bit here, it's difficult to see. So all this is indicating this is actual axal, and in the CP angle, at 80%, it will be the schwannoma. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the thing, push from outside there. Again, here you can see the actual axle, you push from outside because in this one is it because of the dural tail. Then you have the, you will give you the indication this is the actual axle tumor there, am I right? Now, remember the key information is one thing to get is these actual axle tumor are not derived from the brain tissue and do not have brain-blood barrier. So they most times they enhance homogeneously. So if you see the tumor enhance homogeneously, is an appropriate location, the single possibility it should be the actual axle. Does that make sense? Because they don't have the brain-blood barrier there. So again, so this is just talking about the intraaxial, actual axle there. So after that, you were looking whether or not local tumor spread. So this is the kind of the pneumoma, and this spread from this, the fourth ventricle, pneumoma, fourth ventricle in the children, they tend to, through the form of the meningitis and the systematic form of the Lascar. So that's, and the oligodendroma typically extended to the cortex. So how they locally spread is the one thing there, okay? So subarachnoid seeding. So in the kids, mainly is the primary neuroectodermal tumor. And the GBM, lymphoma, pneumoma, oligodendroma, and the choroplexus papilloma, they can subarachnoid seeding. And other tumor usually do not do the, the subarachnoid seeding. And then medulloblastoma and the pineoblastoma in the pediatric population, they have subarachnoid seeding. Am I right? So local infusion. The other thing is that when you look at the tumor, you always want to see the multiple cuts of the brain tumor. So in this case, for example, you see the tumor here, and you will see the tumor there, and this is just locally. So what do? This is the patient, presented with multiple cranial palsy. See the extra-axial tumor in the cavernous sinus, and this is homogeneous enhancement. So this is considered meningioma. But if we do minor cuts, you will see the tumor goes through far behind this area, go to the orbit, and you go down the cavernous sinus, go down there, posterior for spread, the middle cranial fossa. So you need to look at this. When you look at the tumor, you want to do section by section. So when it starts, when it ends. So that's the one thing you look at that. All right. So after that, you will look at whether or not the effects of the surrounding structure. So you look at this low-grade astrocytoma. You see the signal abnormality here. You see the signal. Everyone can appreciate this signal abnormality. So whether or not you see whether or not the surrounding edema, middle line shift, compressed ventricle or not, am I right? So this is kind of the very characteristic of the low-grade astrocytoma. Remember, astrocytoma, they have the infiltration nature. They do not break down the brain-blood barriers. That's why it's not contrast enhanced. And the tumor is much larger than what you saw on the imaging study. So that's why it's very difficult to do the surgery to get the resection. So that's the reason. Okay, after that, you will see whether or not the tumor crossed the middle line. So you look at this, you look at the imaging study, you see whether or not it crossed the middle line. Because if it crossed the middle line, only a couple of tumors are more common: GBM, lymphoma, MS, radiation necrosis. Am I right? Lymphoma and epidermal cyst sometimes do this. Meningioma, Fox meningioma, they couldn't cross the middle line. Low-grade astrocytoma, other kind of group of a tumor, they do not cross the middle line. So whether or not you want to see whether or not the middle line crossing. So classically, GBM, radiation necrosis, this is the meningioma cross the middle line, lymphoma cross the middle line, meningioma cross the middle line, GBM and meningioma cross the middle line. This is a classical lymphoma, and this is the GBM, they cross the middle line. So this is a group of tumor. You want to know whether or not they cross the middle line, all right? Whether or not it is a multifocal, the rule of the thumb in the brain, if it's a multifocal, the first thing about brain metastasis. If it's not brain metastasis, two tumors come into mind. One is the GBM, the other is the lymphoma. The other tumor, they don't have the multiple focal. So that's the way you look at these, multiple GBM lymphoma, global metacerebral, they can be multifocal. In the pediatric population, medullobus tumor and the pandemoma and oligodendrocyte, sometimes occasionally they can multiple focal. But if this is extra-axial, meningioma, schwannoma, particularly neurofibromatosis type 1 and type 2, multifocal. So you look at the lesion, if the multifocal, rule of the thumb, first you think of brain mets. If it's not brain mets, two possible is lymphoma, GBM in adult population. If it's extra-axial, think of meningioma, schwannoma, but usually they're in the neurofibromatosis type 1 or type 2. So that's the thing, whether the unilateral multifocal or not. Keep in mind, multiple brain tumor can be seen in this associated with skin lesions, such as it's the neurofibromatosis type 1, neurofibromatosis type 2. Remember, neurofibromatosis type 1, you see the optic glioma, astrocytoma. Type 2, meningioma, pandemoma, choroidal plexus perioma, and other tuberous sclerosis. The one always on the body, the subependymal tuber, intraventricular giant cell, astrocytoma, and pandemoma. One hypolindo disease, hemorrhagic breast tumor. All right. So keep in mind, many tumor mimicry can have multiple, like the septic embolism, abscess, demyelinating disease, also can present with multifocal. So this is a case like this is the METs. You see the multiple. This is a classical, neurofibromatosis type 2, multiple schwannoma there. Maybe turn off the light, maybe. Thanks. Yeah, looks like thanks. Okay, so after that, we talk about the middle line crossing, we talk about the unilateral. Follow-up, you will see whether or not it is a cortical-based tumor. Cortical-based tumor, the differential is always like this. It's always polycystic astrocytoma, oligodendroma, ganglioma, and a dent. I remember a couple of weeks last month, we have the case of the dent, because why we jump into the dent is because it's a cortical-based. And the cortical-based, the tumor always usually presented with a seizure. and then very frequently in the temporal location or frontal location. So whether or not it's a cortical-based tumor, that's this. You see here, T2 weighted cystic lesion. They're not much enhanced there, and that's the lesion there. Okay, so when you saw the lesion, the cortical-based in temporal lobe, you always differential diagnosis is ganglioma, dentate, polycystic astrocytoma, oligodendroglioma. So this is the list. You think about it. And so this is non-enhancing cortical-based tumor. So this is ganglioma, all right? So differential non-tumor such as herpes, we see infection post-active change because of diffusion with immunity. All right, so we talk about the cortical-based disease. Then what do you want to looking for? You want looking for whether or not you have the fat tumor, the component with the fat or not. Remember the fat on the CT is dark or bright on the CT scan. Yes, exactly. CT scan is dark. Remember, CT scan, if the dark, only two things come to the mind, fat or air. It's very dark. So, because they have the Hounsfield field minus 100. On the MRI, I will say T1. Anything on the T1 bright. Remember, I teach you this. Anything that you saw the bright on the T1, think about the fat, think about hemorrhage before you go any further. And then, if you're not sure, you can do the C. You want to differentiate high signal on the T1. You're not sure it's fat. You ask the radiology technician do the fat suppress sequence and see whether it's a fat because they will suppress or not. Also, anyone know what's the chemical shift artifact? Anyone know that? No? Okay, I will talk about it. So the chemical shift artifact occurs in alternating bending of the high signal and low signal boundary between the fat and the water. Okay? Fat, why fat is important? Because fat usually you will see on the lipoma, dermoid, and the tetraroma. So that's three kind of the tumor you see. So what is the chemical shift artifact? So chemical shift is due to the difference between the resonance frequency between the fat and the water. Okay, fat and the water. So that's the this is the water and this is fat. In between, on the MRI sequence, you will see the chemical shift signal there. Okay, essentially due to the effect, the electron, the cloud to appear the less degree shielding the nucleus from the external. I don't know why this happened, but I know how to look at it. That's all. All right. So this is a classical chemical shift. Look at this, the bright. Remember the T1. This is like between the water and the fat. I just remember like this. You see, this is a classical fat signal. We call this is a chemical shift. And this is also the chemical shift. You see the bright on the T2, you see the dark band. So this is what we're talking about, the chemical shift. If you see the chemical shift just indicating there is a fat component in the lesion. That make sense? All right. So this is a classical, remember, forget the hair first. So this is a CT scan. You have the low signal. Remember the low signal, fat or air. So you have the fat, you have the signal here, and you have the signal here. Keep in mind here, keep in mind here. So this is a classical rupture dermoid disease. Remember the fat is the only very common dermoid, heteroma, lipoma. So this is three. So this is the T1 weighted imaging. So this T1, if it's a rupture, where the money is? The money is here. Look at here. Look at here. Look at there. That's the rupture. So how the patient present? They presented with a headache. They presented with the chemical meningitis. So you look at the sequence is like this. So rupture dermoid because the low signal there. So go ahead. Yeah. They have the neck, they have the meningitis. They can have a stiff neck. They have that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because sometimes we get do LPs or like
I don't know. This is a chemical. What's the non-specific finding on the CSF? That's just the fat irritated the subarachnoid space, and they presented this. That. So fat, okay. After you look at the fat, you will look at whether or not there's a calcification. Remember, the calcification CT scan is much better than the MRI. I still believe CT scan is better, for the hemorrhage. But of course, right now we have the GIE, we have the other sequences, very sensitive for the subarachnoid hemorrhage. But the first line is always look at the calcification. So you look at the calcification, you always think about if you saw the calcification, look at this oligodendroma. Am I right? But if you see the calcification, indeed, the astrocytoma is more common. Why? Because the incidence of astrocytoma is much, much higher than oligodendroma. For me, when I look at calcification, I can differentiate because the pattern of the calcification will usually tell me, like the freak-like, like the dots, more like the oligodendroma. Sometimes the difficulty, am I right? Other common, very common is the pineocytoma. Pineocytoma itself is not calcified. It's calcified in the pineal gland. You have the tumor there, you boom, bust it out. Not because the tumor itself, the pineal gland there. So intraaxial tumor, if you have the calcification, you think about astrocytoma, 20%. Oligodendroma, 90% get the calcification. But the incidence here is much higher than that. So when you saw it, you will think about the astrocytoma. This is a major differential, am I right? Max, I would say plus or minus, certain type of gastric tumor, they may have the calcification, but it's sitting there should be not immediately, should take some time. Am I right? Pneumoma, 50%. This is, the chloroplast papilloma, 25. Remember, ganglioma can be 40%. Am I right? Now, meningioma, 25 to 50, I always say. Sometimes don't calcify, sometimes don't calcify. Craniopharyngioma, 90%. So which patient population? Excellent, excellent. Pediatric, they calcified. Adult, they do not calcify. So that's the way you look at that. Chordoma, they calcified. And chordocytoma, they calcified. So this is a classical pediatric, the craniopharyngioma because of the location. Am I right? So we talk about the fat. So we go through, we look at the lesion, is a fat or not? We look at the lesion, whether or not calcification or not. Then we will look at the lesion, is a cystic versus a solid. Cystic, if it's a cystic, they all component with the CSF sequence. T1 hypodense, T2 hyperdense. Solid is not, am I right? So many cystic lesions can, simulate CNC, including epidermoid, dermoid, allorancular cyst. We see a lot. Neuroenteric cyst, neuroglial cyst. Enlarged the Washoe-Robin space can look like the cystic lesion, am I right? How do you know this is tumor, not tumor? Look at the morphology, look at the fluid level, look at the T1, T2 sequence, look at the diffusion weight sequence. So one important thing is the allorancular cyst is isodense to the CSF, all the sequence. Tumor necrosis may mimic this, but it never exactly the same isodense. But I would take one step back. I have the experience with allorancular cyst, and they're not isolated with all the sequences. What happens if the hemorrhage, if there's some chemical component spill into the system? Sometimes they will change the sequence. Remember, what I show you on the sequence is always what's the component of the system. If it's purely water, it will be the same as the CSF. If it's contaminated, and then they will change it. So that's the way you look at it. So you look at this adult patient, you have kind of cystic kind of component there. Neuroenteric cyst, this is extraaxially. Look at the GBM, they also can be the cystic. We have a couple of cases, GBM is a cystic. Am I right? So that's what is the cystic or not cystic. You look at that. Now, high signal on the T1. Remember, high signal on the T1, two things always this, fat or not, hemorrhage or not. Am I right? Yeah. So that's always kind of, remember, most tumor have the low or intermediate signal on the T1, except for specific type of tumor. Calcification mostly die on the T1, but sometimes we do have the case, calcification bright on the T1. And GIE sequence, remember, the SWAP and this, we do the differential, but I have difficulty to interpret some. Remember, SWAP, what is SWAP? We should be able to differentiate hemorrhage and calcification. But in the real world, sometimes it's still very difficult to differentiate. So we need to go back to this. And that's, remember, high signal is not always enhanced. Now, this is something I want the urology resident to look at this. When you look at the contrast enhanced lesion, you always put the T1 imaging without contrast side by side. Why? Because you give the contrast, you always give the contrast on the T1 with the sequences. So if the T1 sequence is already bright, you look at the contrast, there will be not changing anything. It's not the enhancement. Am I right? So you look at the T1 enhancement, you always look at this. So what's the sequence on the high signal on the T1? High protein, fat, cholesterol, melanin, flow effect, sometimes slow flow, and all this magnetic stuff. This is the list, high signal on the T1. Hemorrhage there. So you look at this is the pituitary T1 signal high. You will see this is Apple practice until you prove otherwise. Am I right? So this is the GBM, I think. You cross the middle line. Remember, you always look at it. If you cross the middle line, GBM lymphoma, MS, radiation necrosis. So this is the hemorrhage there. And here, what's that? So this is the metastasis, the melanoma. Why is this a high signal? High signal is because of melanin. And the melanin high signal on the T1 with the imaging. That's give you the clue why they high on the T1. Am I right? So if you have high on the T1, low on the T2, have the similar, the clinical significance. Why? Most times the bright on the T2. Why bright on the T2? Because they have edema. They have the water there. If they are low, that means something else is going on. Am I right? Now, classical example, CNS, the lymphoma and the PNET tumor. They are hyperdense on the CT. So when we will look at the T, because the lymphoma is hypercellular, that gives you a little bit of high dense signal on the CT scan. Then you will see on the T1 should be high signal, or high or low. High signal, right? Because there's less water. And the T2 also is a high signal. Or low signal. Yeah, T2 low signal, because less water. Yeah, low water, am I right? So that's and the calcification mostly dark on the T2 with the imaging. So that's the low on the T2, and the paramagnetic effect. That's what we talk about these British material there, and the colloidal cyst. Colloidal cyst is always intermediate kind of cyst. Depends on the cyst component, they will change on the T1, T2 signal. The intent. Don't forget the floor void also dark on the T2. That's sometimes give us this is the arterial or the venous thrombosis. We look at the floor void. That's the reason there. So low intensity tumor on the T2, hypercellular, such as lymphoma, classical calcification, blood, protein, melanin, floor void. Yeah, opposite to the high signal on the T1. So that's what it is. So you look at this melanoma. You look at this just on T2 should be the low signal. Remember on T1 here, GBM cross here, you have this necrosis, some kind of signal in this, PNET there, and the mucus T2 here, lymphoma can be look like hypercellularity. That's why I give you this low signal there. Lymphoma flare, you saw these, and oligodendrooma, same thing, pandemoma, and then meningioma. So that's all show the low because of the high cellularity. Melanoma, low signal on the T2 because of the result of melanin. We mentioned this GBM, and because of the higher nuclear cytoplastic ratio. Am I right? PNET mucus, we just mentioned about that. All right, now diffusion with the imaging. Okay, we talk about the fat, we talk about calcification, we talk about the high signal T1, low signal T2. Now we talk about diffusion with the imaging. And for me, diffusion with the imaging is very important to look at this because most important, more reliable is abscess. And then, but keep in mind the GBM, brain mets, and lymphoma. This sometimes can have the high signal on the diffusion with the imaging. And also epidermoid. That's the one we always. If you see the epidermoid is on the diffusion with the imaging, it's always diagnosis, very diagnostic for the epidermoid. Am I right? So that's why most time the tumor don't see it. Okay, now. So you look at this. This is a cerebral abscess. Look at this, and then you look at the smooth this, and then you look at this T2 with the imaging. Same thing. Look at this mass from lung. You also have this. Look at how smooth it is. Look at how smooth it is. For me, we just focus on this. Abscess is more homogeneous, and this is more the rim. This is because of pus, and this is the reason it's just necrosis, the wall, whatever it is. So I was on call like a couple of weeks ago. We have the patient have the mets from the lung. Am I right? From the lung cancer, and you look at the sequence. This is the patient has the high signal on the diffusion with the image, but not like this. I don't remember the name. I was on call Saturday. transfer from Montgomery Hospital, young female, like 45, 50 smoker. You know, you can.
They didn't know if it was abscess, but it was.
Yeah. No, found like that. But you looking back, you can pull out the imaging. The signal diffusion is not like this. It's just like the surrounding area a little bit. But the way that you look at the degree of the vasogenic edema, you look at the wall is not very smooth. So I look at this, I say the major differential is the brain mets and the GBM, much less likely for the abscess. Because this is important, but treatment is completely different. If you say the abscess, start antibiotics, you do this thing, even though you, for the abscess, you can avoid the brain biopsy, and the patient may respond to it. So that's a couple of weeks I was on call, transfer there, and I say, more likely mets or GBM, less likely the abscess, just because of the sequence of the diffusion. That makes sense? All right, perfusion imaging. So after diffusion, we look at the perfusion imaging. Perfusion imaging determines the malignancy grade of the CNS tumor. Perfusion depends on the vascularity of the tumor, not dependent on the breakdown of the brain-brain barrier. So what does this mean? Usually have the high vascularity, and you have the perfusion signal, am I right? So the amount of the perfusion shows a better correlation with the grade of malignancy of the tumor than the amount of contrast enhancement. Perfusion, we don't do very often. The high perfusion just means the high vascularity. What kind of tumor has the high vascularity? Yeah, the GBM. Am I right? Okay, so enhancement. All the tumor we do all the work up to the enhancement. The enhancement, remember, enhancement is a two component. One is the breakdown of the brain-brain barrier. The other is intravascular. So that's the way we look at it. Am I right? For the tumor, we mainly is the breakdown of the brain-brain barrier. Remember, extra-axial tumor, because meningioma, schwannoma, they do not have the brain-brain barrier. Extra-axial, so that's why they always enhance. But in the intra-axial, if you have the brain-brain barrier, they break down, you enhance. But remember, infection, developing disease, infection, they also enhance. Am I right? So the question is, infection, when they enhance? When? Infection. Yeah, subacute phase. Yeah, subacute. You need to know the timing. So that's why when you look at them, acute phase, they may not enhance. After 3 days to 7 days, they start to enhance. Enhance last for 1 month, and then we disappear. All right? All right. So contrast enhanced tumor, high-grade glioma, low-grade glioma. This is the only one exception, okay? Ganglioma, they can enhance vividly, but they are low-grade. Polycystic astrocytoma, they can enhance vividly, they are low-grade. Usually when you look at tumor, when more enhanced, we see more malignant. Two exceptions, one is ganglioma, polycystic astrocytoma. Lymphoma, remember, if the immune component, homogeneous enhancement. Immune compromised, they can do everything. Could be enhanced, could be not enhanced. So that's the way we look at that, am I right? That's the way we keep teaching you like this. Lymphoma, first thing you want to know is the immune compromised or not compromised. If the immune component, if they don't enhance, I have seriously thought about this lymphoma. But immune compromised, they can present anything. Am I right? Metastasis, they must be enhanced. Otherwise, we never diagnose it because they break down the brain barrier. That's why they're localized at the gray YMA junction. And that's the area, the pressure of the blood vessel, they change. That's why you saw the vasogenic edema there. Non-tumor, infection, abscess, MS infection, they also get enhanced, am I right? Okay, so now, Joe, you saw the lesion here, am I right? You saw the lesion here. So this is the cortical base. So what's the differential diagnosis? Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, four things. Dent, ganglioma, oligodendroma, polycystic astrocytoma. You look at this, you always think about this, am I right? So then the follow-up study, you do a little bit enlarged. Then you do the, no, it can be anywhere. Dent could be more common there. So the point of what I want to make is just always keep in mind that glioma, they don't enhance. The real tumor is much bigger, whatever than you saw, because of the infiltration nature. That's the only thing you want to remember, okay? Because you don't see it. For example, if there's a tumor here, you saw this is abdominal kind of thing. Tumor could be to this area. You don't see it. because of the infiltration nature of the glioma. If they do not break down the brain-to-brain barrier, you don't see the enhancement. That's the reason. After your resection, you say, oh, the tumor is resected, but patients still have symptoms. Patients still have the seizure. And sometimes it makes a change. Am I right? So this is a ganglioma, and this is a polycystic astrocytoma, okay? So if you previously, for the low-grade glioma, is like this. This is something important to keep in mind. If you have the low-grade glioma, 1 year ago, you do the study, not enhanced. Next 6 months, 1 year later, you saw the enhancement. This always anyway indicating malignancy transformation, am I right? Previously don't enhance, not enhanced. That means something getting worse. Only exception is ganglioma, polycystic astrocytoma. They are low grade, but they enhance. So that's what we follow that. All right, enhancement. So this is the case. You look at this, like this homogeneous no necrosis lymphoma. That's it. If it's not immune compromised, and this is CP angle. Am I right? Yes. So this is the schwannoma. Am I right? Yeah, schwannoma there. Okay. So that's the longer the better. Now, one thing is always keep in mind, how do you do the enhance? You always see sometimes you can have double enhancement. Sometimes you need to wait. Remember, you take timing. So if you small tumor, if you give the contrast too quick, 5 minutes or 10 minutes later, and if you don't wait, it depends on the kidney function, depends on the time you do the study. Sometimes you can miss some enhancement. So you always keep in mind, what do you do there? When you don't see the enhancement in the tumor, it's a low-grade astrocytoma, no enhancement, am I right? Dermoid system, epidermoid, anorancular system, they don't do enhance, am I right? Homogeneous enhancement, metastasis, enhanced, am I right? Lymphoma in immune competent, am I right? Geminoma, pineal tumor, they enhance. Pituitary microadenoma, they enhance. How about the pituitary microadenoma? Not enhanced. Now, that's the way we diagnose it. How we diagnose it? Which area in the brain they lack of brain-to-brain barrier? Yes, one of them. Excellent. Pineal gland area sometimes they don't enhance. Okay, so that's where the money is. You give the contrast. Pituitary microadenoma, they don't enhance, but pituitary enhance. That's why you saw the signal, low signal is the microadenoma. That's why we incidentally find it. But if the macro is so big, and then they start to enhance. That makes sense? Yeah, I will talk about that. The ganglioma can enhance, meningioma, schwannoma. So that's the homogeneous enhancement. You see meningioma enhancement, schwannoma enhancement, lymphoma, polypress they enhance. Hemiangioplasty, this is a solid component they enhance. And the cystic they don't enhance. And this is a polycystic they enhance. And again, this is the tumor enhance. Okay? Patch enhancement. Remember, when we talk, you always say enhance or not enhance. If the enhance is the patch or it's homogeneous, maximal common, oligo, GBM, the patch, radiation necrosis, the patch enhancement. So you look at this is we call the patch enhancement. If you don't look at the hair, you look at the cystic like this, it could be even like a brain abscess. It's very homogeneous, but this gives you the idea. This is a GBM. But you look at the FLAIR image, you can see the tumor is much bigger than what you saw here. So that's the nature of the GBM. You see the picture like this, and it's a GBM unless you cross. Why? Because it crosses the middle line. Across the middle line, go involve the corpus callosum. And it's very unlikely something else. Am I right? So this is a classical GBM. Again, you look at T1 get patch enhancement, T2. You appreciate the tumor. Indeed, the tumor could be here, could be there. It's much, much bigger. This is kind of the characteristic of the GBM presentation. Ring enhancement. You see? Now, I can spend the time and talk about this. MADS, GBM, abscess infection, chronic hematoma, this. There's a lot of talking about how smooth inner ring, outside, but sometimes still, in the real world, I still have difficulty looking at the inner wall, outside of the wall. This. Yeah. All this, the inlet, this, the face to this. Okay. Now, when you see the re-enhancement, the keeping the magic doctor, please go. Magic doctor, Mets, abscess, GBA, magic doctor, am I right? Magic doctor. So I will spend some time, look at the open or close, how smooth it is, and the combination with T2, and then this blah blah. But I have a couple of cases when they're here. I still have difficulty. Patient wait. So difficulty, okay. So you really need to put all things together in order to make it. But just keep in mind the magic doctor. So that's the way enhance or not. Now, one thing is very, very important is leptomeningeal metastasis. So you always want to do the contrast enhancement looking there. Leptomeningeal enhancement, if you don't do the contrast, you will not see anything. And the leptomeningeal enhancement is very easy to diagnose if you have the intraparenchymal lesion associated with it. But it's difficulty if there's only leptomeningeal enhancement. And the same thing with the roots. You really need to give a contrast, and then you do the LP. LP, you need to do 3 LP in order to, sometimes the false negative. So that's the only thing. Sure.
Does LP cause
Yes.
it does, so because sometimes we do.
No. Very good point. Now let me tell you what. Leptomeningeal enhancement is different from the pachymeningeal enhancement. LP causes enhancement is the pachymeningeal enhancement, not the leptomeningeal enhancement.
Oh.
Do I answer your question?
Yeah, because sometimes the LP is abnormal, we think the patient is infected, and then radiology says the enhancement could be because of the LP.
But LP don't give you leptomeningeal enhancement, give you pachymeningeal enhancement. It's only the surface. If you go deep inside, then this is leptomeningeal enhancement. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, so the ideal situation is you think about LP. Okay, you to avoid this, if you're on call, do the study with the contrast first before you do the LP. Then you can avoid it. Otherwise, blah blah here and there, and then cause a lot of confusion, right? Why not you just do the MRI first? Unless when the LP is urgent for this decision making, is you CNS. If you CNS bacterial meningitis, you suspicion highly. Without any study, you give the vancomycin ceftriaxone before you do any MRI. Otherwise, for the leptomeningeal disease, you can wait. There's nothing in hurry because this is. I rather you do the study with the contrast first before you do the LP in order to avoid the potential confusion. That makes sense? Yeah, you do that. Okay, anatomy. I just say based on the location, school-based problem. I will speed up a little bit. Let's see, text. So that's the common school-based tumor. I just skip here what you saw, and here in the cell region, that's the common tumor. CP angle schwannoma meningioma much more common. So that's all about pioneer. This is the list of the tumor there, and intraventricular. This is the list of the tumor. I can give a talk on intraventricular tumor separated, how to make a differential there. And this is the fourth ventricle, what kind of tumor we commonly see. Tumor mimic, abscess. Okay, that's always on this. Multiple sclerosis and the aneurysm. So that's always this. So like this abscess. Okay, this is multiple sclerosis, and this is a giant aneurysm. How to do it? How to look at this? Is you look into the wall, look at the blood product, look at all this, always this. And I want to do one separated talk about tumor mimic in the brain. So this is just one slide there. Herpes, remember, like this can mimic. And dural fistula, how do you know this is dural fistula? Deliver will know. Yeah, and also this is floor void. What has the vessel? Oh, yeah. You always look at it. If you saw this kind of floor void kind of excursion, always think about the vascular problem. Give you the clue. You always look at the vascular. Anytime you saw the floor void or whatever, it's possibly the vascular or not. That's the way there. Here, this is how to approach, this. The tumor, I email you. So, question 1, does the lesion enhance or not? Am I right? So you always ask this. Why? Because glioma, low-grade glioma don't enhance, and other will be enhanced. Based on enhanced pattern, give you a differential. Am I right? Diffusion facilitated or not? The diffusion weighted imaging, always think about the possibility of abscess epidermoid, these two bone look a lot homogeneous. If not, GBM, METs, lymphoma, they could have facilitated this. Low-grade other tumor, they don't have this. So give you the differential diagnosis. Ring enhancement or not, is a necrosis or not. If it has necrosis, GBM, and it could be the lymphoma. No necrosis, maybe low-grade there. And the pattern of the enhancement, am I right? And then facility diffusion or not. Perfusion increase. Perfusion increased GBM because of high vascularity. Am I right? And then what happened with the infiltrated surrounding tissue there? Low grade, they have a lot of infiltration for the surrounding tissue. Am I right? So this is MI. Sam, I did talk about the MI. Right? You guys get it? MIS. You guys have MIS? Last year?
I was here.
You know, oh, you were there. Yeah, okay. I can give one more. MIS. Okay. Do this. I don't like the MIS. It's not very reliable. Remember, a lot of cases could be this, could be that, could be, you know. I like the imaging, you know, this. So because the earnest effort for the neuro-oncology, I want to give a lot of talk with the tumor stuff. So next time we have this, I feel let you feel more comfortable to look at imaging. Why is this METs? Remember the thing, the 1/3 of the brain lesion is METs. Is the METs, you know, supertentorial, infratentorial, you always think about the METs until you prove otherwise. And that's the way. But by looking at this, sometimes it's important. Why is it important? Access-based treatment is different. Development is different. So this is the kind of thing you need to look at this, the tumor mimicker. And the giant aneurysm could mimic the tumor. And look at this. This is much more fun than you waiting for the biopsies come out. But biopsy, you always think it's very helpful. But I always say, look at the slides yourself. Have good habit. Sometimes the biopsy could be non-conclusive. Sometimes cause a lot of confusion. You always, a good neurologist always clinical history, imaging, pathology, putting together. Because a lot of times they can be biased. And sometimes it will cause confusion. You know, you always make sure, oh, this is the clinical cause. This is the imaging. This is the pathology. They fit together. They correlate each other. Then we have the diagnosis. Sometimes, you know, that's the fun part. All right. I think this is better than the physiology, right? All right, good.
All right, I'll deal with it.
Yeah, now let me log out.
No, not yet, not yet.
Yeah.
I'll stop this one.
Yeah, log out.
Yes, I will.
Hey students, I can meet you guys here whenever you guys are there. I'm gonna come over. That's fine. Go grab your lunch. Okay.